Welcome to 5% Radio, where it's all about learning like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Please be sure to share and subscribe. What's up, 5%ers, and welcome back to another episode of the 5% Radio Podcast. Today is episode number 77, and I want to talk to you about the danger of the blue room. See, what if I told you there was a fork in the road that you wake up and face every single day in your life, and what seems like the safest route is actually the most dangerous one for you to take? I'll tell you exactly what I mean here in just a second. Let's go ahead and dive in with a couple quotes before we actually get into the meat of the episode. So the first quote is unknown, and it says this: "The biggest risk is thinking a 9-to-5 job is security. The real risk is spending 40 years building someone else's dream and ignoring your own." Tony Gaskins said in a different quote, "Most people give up on their dreams and work for someone who didn't." Another anonymous quote is, "You were not born just to pay bills and die. Trading your time for a paycheck isn't safety, it's silent sacrifice." Last quote, Chris Brady said, "There is no safety in a significant life, and there is no significance in a safe life." I want to base today's episode off of a story that I heard told by a speaker. I was listening to this guy give a talk, and he was talking about business, and one of the things that he equated this to is he was actually on a rafting trip with a couple friends, and the guide was having them do these drills on the shore. Like, so on the rocky beach, they're doing these drills before they actually hop in the water and go whitewater rafting. And one of the things their guide told them after they got done doing these drills is, don't go in the blue room. And they said, "What's the blue room?" He said, "The blue room is when you're going down the rapids and the raft, the blue raft, flips over. Everyone gets thrown out of the boat, but you're still under the raft." He said, "It's safe in there. It's quiet in there. It's calm in there. It seems like nothing's going on. It seems like you're fine because you're floating down the river and your head's covered. You can't really see what's going on. You can't see what's coming. You can't see the fact that you're about to hit a rock or go into more rapids or go over a waterfall or get plowed into, a log that's halfway stuck in the river." He said, "You can't see anything, but it appears and feels safe." He said, "That's the blue room." He said, "It's the most dangerous place you can be." He said, "You'll go in the blue room and you'll feel safe. It's quiet, feels secure, feels like nothing's going on, but you'll die in there because you get trapped with the illusion of safety when it's actually the most dangerous place you could be in the river." And the blue room for most people is working a 9-to-5 job. But the irony is the most important thing you could do for your own safety, for your own security, for your own independence, to actually make sure that you can accomplish anything in your life that you want to accomplish, is to get out of the raft, is to get out of the rat race, out of trading hours for dollars, out of 9-to-5, out of the safety and security of the paycheck and what most people believe is the safe way to go. See, years and years and years ago, and I'll do a different episode on this in the future, but in the early 1900s, I want to say it was like 1908 or 1911, John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, all these guys that were the deep pockets of the world at the time, basically the richest people in America, they got together and they changed our educational system. So what do you mean, Jesse? This sounds a little bit fringe, weird. Yes, okay, they actually did. They changed our educational system to go from one that was actually focused on teaching people how to learn things and how to get prepared for everyday life and how to be successful. See, back then, a lot of people were entrepreneurs. It was like 90-10. Between the 1800s and the 1900s, 90% of people were doing their own thing. And what would happen is you would find someone who owned a business, and then you would go under that person and you would apprentice under them to actually learn their trade, to learn their craft. And then while you were doing that, you were a W-2, a worker second class. That's what W-2 stands for, by the way. You probably didn't know that, but the IRS has now abbreviated W-2. Worker second class is what W-2 stands for, meaning that you are not a first-class worker. You're not working for yourself. You're not self-employed. You have someone else who you're depending on to feed you, to give you safety, to put you in the blue room. You would learn a trade from someone, and then when you were done apprenticing, you would either take over their business or you would open your own business doing the exact same thing. But back then, John D. Rockefeller was actually quoted as, and he said this out loud, he said, "I don't want a country of thinkers, I want a country of workers." Now, that's a paraphrase, but it's almost word for word what he said. He was not looking for a country of independent people. He was not looking for people who wanted to go into business for themselves, people who wanted to be successful. Instead of doing what you want to do with your life, years ago, people would be asked, how successful do you want to be? That was kind of like the American dream. No one came over on the Mayflower hoping that they could get a job. Like, man, I hope they give me benefits when I get there. Hopefully they've got a good retirement plan. Like, hopefully I can do something to where I can work for the next 40, 50 years and be told when to be where and be told when I can be hungry and have to go ask if I can have a potty break and all this stuff. And hopefully I can just land a good job. No, they came over knowing that if they were going to make it It was on them. If it's to be, it's up to me. They came over with an attitude of independence, of responsibility, of I'm going to make something work here. And then our country now has changed because during the Industrial Revolution, when there's factories opening up all over the place and there's major, $1 billion basically back then, what would have been equivalent to $1 billion companies doing steel and oil and all these other things, they needed lots of workers. And these guys understood that if we can offer people the illusion of security and then pair that with the fact that in 1935, they came out with Social Security and they said, hey, you're going to work until the age of 65 is what they told people. You can start collecting these benefits at 65. And basically they did that because the average life expectancy back then was 61 when they came out with this. So, hey, look, here's the deal. We're going to let you do this whole free lunch thing. We'll give you money later on. We just need you to pay into this for years and years and years. And then we'll offer this thing called retirement not because we want you to be comfortable, not because we want to make sure that you're taken care of, but because when you get old and slow and you can't pay your bills, we would actually rather just replace you with new workers and give you this idea of a pension or retirement. And then the pension and Social Security, all that switched to, hey, we're going to do Social Security still. I mean, it's probably not going to be there for anybody, but we're still going to offer that. But also, we're going to get rid of the whole pension thing because that's costing us way too much money. And we're going to go into a retirement fund, a 401k or a Roth IRA, and we're going to sell it to you. Hey, we'll match you up to this percentage, but here's the kicker. You've got to save the money yourself. Well, I'm having a hard time paying my bills on what I'm living on now, the money that I make now. I'm having a hard time paying my bills on that. So how in the heck am I supposed to save for retirement? I just posted something today on our on the 5% Media. If you haven't gone and followed us, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, all this other stuff. But if you haven't gone and checked it out, check it out. I put a lot of content on there that'll never make it on the podcast. But I posted the stat of what the average person has saved in retirement, and it was pitiful. It was $200,000 to $600,000. Now that might sound like a lot of money, but if you're living on $3 or $4 grand a month now, how in the world are you supposed to live on that later on? See, the kicker is most people don't have a whole lot of money in their retirement savings. So the median is very, very, very low. On the high end, you might have over $500,000. You might have 600,000, but the average is like 200,000 to 400,000 in there somewhere like that. I think you can Google this right now. It's April 28th of 2025, and I'm recording this. But most people don't really have a whole lot in their retirement. And I'll actually be doing an entire episode in the future on the educational system and all the changes that happen. And I mean, really a deep dive there so people can understand this stuff because I believe they need to. But a lot of people have almost nothing in retirement. And here's the thing. They are sold on the idea of a free lunch someday. They're sold on the idea that if they just work hard now, that they'll have stuff later, that they can live out the golden years in retirement. And those people will spend their entire lives working. The average person spends over 100,000 hours working during their lifetime. Now, I just sat down with a couple the other day, awesome couple, and they are looking in a big way of a way to accomplish their dreams. And they were just going over all the different things they want, basically telling me, like, even at this age, that they're pretty much my age, even at this age, we kind of realize that we can only do so much. And they make great money. They make way more than my wife and I ever made as employees. I mean, probably almost twice as far as like top line what they bring in before taxes and everything else. They make great money. And all things considered, they have wonderful benefits. They have great jobs. If you're looking at it from a, is it a good or a bad job? I personally don't believe in jobs. I'm not against them. I've had 24 of them, but I don't believe that people should work jobs unless they truly want to work a job. I do believe people should work. I do believe people have to be productive. I don't believe in people retiring and sitting around and doing nothing because that's how you rot away. That's how you die way younger than you were supposed to. That's how people have all kinds of mental issues and all these different things that happen because they, win lots of money or they retire younger, all this different stuff. And then their life just gets messed up because we're not meant to do nothing, but we're not meant to work for someone else in the sense that, people talk about, well, work is a biblical concept. Yes, it is. But nowhere in there does it say that you've got to be a wage slave. See, people spend 100,000 hours of their life working. And if you do the math, that's a total of 11 and a half years straight working. 11 and a half years. I believe that was the right stat. I did the math. So on average, based on that data, the government has tracked people's finances since World War II. And what happens is that the average person will work 45 to 50 years. It's now getting longer and longer and longer, but they'll work a very long time, so 4 to 5 decades, and retire on half to 2/3 of what they were struggling to make it on before. Now, by the age of 65, here's another crazy stat, 95% of people, and again, that's why I call everything 5% this, 5% radio, 5% media, because we're looking for what are the 5% doing differently. But 95% of people by age 65 are one of these three things: dead, disabled, or dead broke. 4% make it to a level of financial security, which means they have the dignity to live on their own independently without begging their family for money or looking for a handout. 1% actually end up wealthy. The average career nowadays lasts about 3 to 4 years. Now, years ago, I can remember just absolutely being mind blown talking to my dad that his career, he had had the same job for 27 years. Like, I have had 24 different occupations. And then working for myself in the agency, I've done other things on the side of that when things got slow. And then now we're on our way to walking away from being self-employed in the next 18 months or so and actually just being completely financially free, living off of passive residual income and working, 5 to 10 hours a week unless I want to work more. But like the position that we'll be in then is so different. But the average career being 3 to 4 years, my dad working 27 years, I remember thinking like, how is that possible? Because I would have a different job. I'd have sometimes maybe 3, 4 jobs in a year or more. My record for a job, like, man, I stayed there a long time, was 3 years. My record before that was like 12 and a half months. Now, keep in mind, I started working right after, like a couple days after I turned 15. I remember filling out my first job application, having the interview, and getting hired at a place that's actually not far from my house, and I still drive by it on a very regular basis, and had a meeting with the owner the other day for some AI stuff with the agency, which was really cool. I told him I had my first job through him, and I guess that wasn't a polite thing to say because then he told me that it made him feel old. But anyway, I'm thankful for that because it helped me start making money at a young age, but that was not what I wanted to do long term. So if the average career is lasting 3 to 4 years, some people have longer careers than that. Some people have jobs that are, if you want to work a job, there are some quote unquote good jobs out there, but they're not great. I'm not against people having a job if that's what they want to do, but don't get stuck thinking that the blue room is safe. Don't get stuck thinking that, well, they're going to sell you on this great retirement package and their pension and their 401k and they'll match this and they have all these other great benefits and they give you this much paid vacation. It's a farce. It's a lie. Plan A does not exist. Plan A is a distraction. It'd be like if you drive up to a car lot and they've got cardboard cutout cars and they're like, yeah, these are only half price. Here's the deal. We'll replace the car every 3 years for you. Or when it gets over 50,000 miles, we'll do all the oil changes. We'll give you a gas car. Like, sounds too good to be true. So all I have to do is show up, pick up one of these cars, and then just drive it a certain number of miles, and you'll give me a new one. Yeah, absolutely. And they're cheaper. Man, where do I sign? And then you get through the first car and the second car and the third car, and then they're like, hey, by the way, we're actually going to take the car, and we're going to keep all the money. And then you're still going to have to go find something else to drive. You'd be like, man, this place is a scam. 0 out of 5 stars. We're getting shut down, filing an F- rating with the Better Business Bureau. Like, this is terrible. But people will go work a job and they're like, yeah, our retirement, like the amount of places that I have either heard of or heard people talk about or been in myself, where if you cash out your retirement before a certain date, you get nothing they match. They won't start matching you for X amount of time. Like, that they are not interested in developing any assets for you. You are an asset for them. They want you to do work for them. And I speak from a position of knowledge here as someone who's been self-employed. I'm not looking to make someone who works for me crazy rich. I want to pay them fair. I want to give them skills that they can take into the marketplace and make lots of money on their own. I want to encourage them to have their own business. I want to do everything I can to help them succeed when they're no longer with me. But my job as the business owner is to watch the bottom line, to increase the top line revenue, and to make as much profit as possible. Can I do profit sharing and things like that and bonuses? And have I been generous to employees and contractors in the past and overpaid them? Yes. First employee I ever had was doing time stealing, clocking in, not actually working, and then still getting paid. And I paid him significantly more than I owed him and fired him. Like, I made sure that he couldn't come back and be like, oh, this guy screwed me over. He stiffed me on this. Like, I made sure that my witness, my morals as a Christian, knowing that I have to do the right thing, doing to others as you would have them doing to you. I paid him significantly more than I owed him, and we cut ties. But my goal was not to make him rich. My goal was to have him labor in my business so that I can leverage his time and be doing something else while he's doing that to make money. Your boss, wherever you work, they are paying you retail for your time. They're paying you wholesale, and they're selling at retail. So if you get paid $40 an hour, you better believe your boss is billing out 80, 90, $100, $120 an hour. I heard a guy talk about being an accountant and he was making, I think he said 30 or 40 grand a year. And he personally billed out $168,000 his first year at this law firm. And that was a record. No new person, no accountant. Accountants aren't really known for their great bubbly personalities, but he billed out all this money. And in his brain, he's like, man, I'm going to get a massive raise. They might make me a partner. Like I brought in, 4 or 5x what most people bring in. And they gave him a 10% raise and basically told him like, hey, this is the biggest raise we've ever given. And we're going to give you a new title and this and that. And he's like, well, forget this. And he went out and started his own company. The next year he worked 10 hours a week and made $75,000, of which he kept the majority of it because he ran it from his house the first year. That's the difference, guys. If you work for someone and you're getting paid a great wage, if you work a construction job and you're getting paid $40 an hour and a per diem wage and you're getting paid $65 an hour and you're like, man, I'm making killer money. That construction company, they got a contract for multiple millions of dollars and they're paying you a pittance and you're the one doing all the work. Well, yeah, that's fine, but I'm paying my bills and this and that. Okay, I don't care. That's great. I applaud you for doing something to provide for your family. But is that what you want to do? Well, no, but I got to be practical. No, don't give me that. The Bible says it's appointed that a man wants to die, meaning you live once. Another passage in the Bible talked about life is but a vapor or a handbreath, meaning like if you try to catch smoke, boom, that's your life. That's how short our lives are down here. Your time is going to tick by. My next episode, I'm going to talk about urgency and creating a positive mental frame of artificial urgency in your life based on the time that you think you have left. But the reality is we don't have that much time here. See, there's an hourglass. The top of it is painted black, and all we can see is the bottom. All I can see is how many years and how many months and how many days you've lived. I have no clue how much is on the top. My kids, got no idea. My parents, I've got no idea. My wife, everything I do in life, I have no clue if this is my last day enjoying that blessing in my life or if I'll have another 1,000 or 10,000 days of that. I don't know. So I'm not going to waste my time doing something I hate doing just to pay my bills and then someday end up being broke and having to go get another job. It's called retirement nowadays. The average career nowadays, I talked about this, but 3 to 4 years. Over 70% of people who graduate college for a specific degree that they went to college to get a job because that's what they were sold on aptitude tests and job wheels. Hey, go in the blue room. It's safe in there. It's fine. Nothing's going to happen. Go to school. You get a career that doesn't even have anything to do with the fact that you got a degree in that field. Nothing to do with it. They're like, oh, yeah, you got a piece of paper. Yeah, do you have lambskin? Perfect. Okay, awesome. Sheepskin, whatever they call it. As you can tell, I don't really care about degrees. My wife has one. She was a Dean's List, bachelor's degree. I mean, that's great. I mentor with guys that have master's degrees and all this other stuff that are multimillionaires. I mentor with guys that barely graduated high school that are multimillionaires that make 30, 40, 50 G's a month. Like, it doesn't matter. It does not affect your ability to create wealth, to create freedom in your life. It doesn't help it. It doesn't hurt it. Is education a bad thing? Not necessarily. But if you're going to school strictly so that you can get a piece of paper, so that you can get a career in something that you don't really even want to do, but you're like, hey, it makes a lot of money, you're going to be empty. You are not going to like what you're doing. And eventually the paycheck is not going to balance out the fact that you hate your work. It's not going to work. 70% of college graduates never actually get a job in their field of study. That's crazy. And people, I know a guy in high school that went into, he got a full ride scholarship to play football at a school. And he's like, no, I want to play basketball. Went and paid, I think it was like $38,000 a year for 4 years of college as a walk-on this basketball team, just so he could have fun. That's $152,000. Just for fun. Man, I'd like, it's a once in a lifetime experience. That's a house, guys. That is crazy. The number of people, what I'm trying to get across to you, and I have a couple stories, personal stories of people that I've met that I've either worked with or that I have coached and mentored, that I went to church with. There's all these different groups of people that I've met and just crazy stories. I've got 4 stories for you. But the number of people that I've met who were forced into early retirement, fired from jobs that they thought they would have forever, or they got shafted on a sour deal because the company went belly up. They had a great retirement. They did have great benefits. They did have a great pension. The company goes belly up. Guess what? You get nothing. You get nothing. You work there your whole life. Well, I'm going to sue the company for what? They went bankrupt. They filed Chapter 11 or Chapter 13, whatever it is. They went bankrupt or they're out of business. And hey, that sucks. It's gone. There is a too late. You can waste your life working a job that you don't love, to pay your bills, to buy things you don't need, to drive a nicer car than you need to drive, to live in a bigger house than you can really afford because the bank said it's yours, but if you quit paying it, they're going to repossess the asset and they're going to kick you out. And look up, if you want to watch a crazy documentary, look up 99 Homes, the housing market, and they were literally, like sheriff's office knocking on someone's door. Hey, you've got 2 minutes to be out. Well, what? We're behind on our mortgage, but we were told that we had 60 days or we had 30 days or we had two weeks. Like, no. You have 3 minutes, and then anything that's left in the house, we're going to sell it. You think that's your asset, the house that you own? Stop thinking that your house is an asset, that it's an ATM. You can just refinance and this and that and get a lower interest rate. If you quit paying on that thing, or even worse, if you paid it off and you didn't pay your property tax, freest country in the world, folks, they're going to take your house. If you own your car, quote unquote, people are like, oh, that's my car. It's actually 10/60ths your car. Crazy to think about, but it's just over whatever that is, 15 or 20% your car, and the rest of it belongs to the bank. And you quit paying on it and they take it. So you work a job with no security, with no real promise of the future, and you're in the blue room and people are like, hey, you're doing good. You go out and become self-employed, or you try to get financially free, or you have big dreams. They're like, hey, we're worried about you because you're not doing the safe thing. You need to stay under the raft with us floating down the river. And by the way, guys, the reason that I get so passionate about this stuff, and if you're following us on all the other platforms, you'll see this, but I get so passionate about this stuff because I know there are more people like me out there, and I know there are more people that hate what they're doing every day. I've talked to guys that literally get almost physically sick going into work, like grown men that almost want to cry or almost want to puke going into their jobs because they hate what they do so much, but they put themselves in a position, thanks to our culture of, just sign here on the dotted line, 0% interest for 12 months and just 12 easy payments of this, and it's only $350 a month. And they've put themselves in such a bad spot with their toys and their house and the vacations that they financed and the clothes that they bought that they really can't afford, and the newest phone and the newest this and the newest that, and the motorcycle payment and all this different junk, that they can't walk away from what they do to earn their income, even though it's not going to serve them at all when they need it most. Crazy. Few stories here. First story, talk about the Blue Room. It's being safe. It's great, wonderful. People love it. They pat you on the back. Oh, you're doing such a good job, such a hard worker, such a great provider. I had a friend of mine, his name is Matt. He's working on the Freedom Project with us. If you want to learn more about the Freedom Project, I have a link in the description, but that's really what we're doing to build passive income, and it's going great. But you can go to 40hoursAweeksucks.com/exit. So the number 40, and then all spelled out, hoursAweeksucks.com/exit to learn more about the Freedom Project and how we're producing passive income. But I was talking to Matt, and he said that when he worked a job, his grandmother passed away, and they told him, if you go to your grandmother's viewing hours. Now, this dude worked all the overtime you can imagine. He was a shift lead, doing a phenomenal job working at the company, one of their top producers. I mean, just he was crushing it for that factory. And they told him, if you go to your grandma's viewing hours, we're going to point you. Like, we're going to give you a point. You know how this works. If you get so many points, you're going to get fired. Like, that's crazy. Your grandmother died, and you want to go to her viewing hours. Like, you can't help that. It's not like you were like, you know what? It'd be cool if grandma died on like a Saturday, because then, it would work out. Maybe we could have the viewing on like, maybe a Sunday or something. Like, could we work that? Like, no, she passed away, and he still went. He took the point. Like, who cares? He's a rascal. But how wrong is that? Like, if you go to your grandmother's viewing hours, we're going to give you a point. You're going to get one step closer to being fired because you didn't do exactly what we said. But you're free. It's just a job. It's not slavery. It's not modern day slavery. It's not a wage slave. No. It's just a job. I understand. It's garbage. The Blue Room is not safe. Don't go in the Blue Room. I have a note here, March 11th, 2021. This woman's name was Nanette, and she was a weight loss coaching client of mine in a previous life when I did that for a living. I've literally done everything. But she took a temp job during one summer, right out of high school, at a food factory, even though she wanted to study forensic law. The day I met her, she was 54 and had been working there for 35 years at a temp job, guys. A temp job, something she didn't actually plan to do, didn't want to stay there. Just, I'll do this for the summer to pay some bills. 35 years later. 35 years. They hooked her in. She didn't like what she did. She wanted to study forensic law. She had a dream. She wanted to do something with that. And when her and I talked, 35 years, 7 days a week for over a decade she'd been working. 7 days a week for over a decade. Almost 3,650 days. That's ridiculous. Straight. And she was just wanting to retire. And now, guess what? Now she reads forensic books, and everything that she wanted to do as a profession, now she reads that as a hobby. She puts her dreams on the back shelf, and she just goes to work 7 days a week. Another note that I took, March 13th, 2021, I wrote down these stories because I knew that I would be telling these to people someday, because I want people to understand the reality of the rat race is that it's a farce. It's a scam. They're going to suck your life. They're going to take everything you have, bleed you dry in 40, 50, 60% taxes by the time you pay all the different federal, state, food tax, this, Social Security, FICA, and you're going to have nothing left. But people will tell you you're doing the smart thing. You're staying in the blue room. Everyone in our family's always been employed. They've always treated us good. Robin, age 59, she had been at an ATM company in the banking field for over 30 years. She had just refinanced her house and put a down payment on a camper. When she came into us, she put a down payment on a program, couldn't even afford to pay cash for it. And she was coming in a few days later to get a refund for the program that she had just put a down payment on because this happened. We're on a video conference call, doing accountability coaching, walking her through her program, making sure everything's going well. 5 p.m. on a Friday, she and 15 other people found out 30 years after working at the same company. 30 years. She and 15 other people found out that they were being let go immediately, and she called me to pause payments on her program and see if she can get a refund, crying. 30 years. She's 59 years old. She should be retiring in 5 years. I don't give a crap how great her pension was. I don't care how good the benefits were. I don't care what they matched. She is gone. 30 years. Done. 30 years. Now what's she supposed to do? And she's having to put a pause on a program that was less than $300 a month. If you can't afford $300 a month after working at the same thing 30 years, something's wrong, guys. Another guy that we're working with on a passive income project, his name is Josh. Super awesome guy. Worked at the same place for years and years and years and years and years. And he had a lot of seniority there. I think he'd been there for almost 2 decades. Company got acquired. They said, look, we're not going to change anything, but we are going to, no one's going to lose their job or get a cut in pay, but we're going to change the pension program, and we're basically just going to cash it out because this place was known for their pension. We're just going to cash it out. And here's how we're going to do it. Let's just go through what would be logical, right? Blue room, safe, great decision, right? That's what people should do. Here's how they did it. Not based on seniority. No, that wouldn't make sense. Not based on how much people had performed for the company or their position there or, anything else, the number of awards they got. Instead of just giving out the pension like it was supposed to be, they said, we're just going to give it out based on age. Oh, do you mean seniority? Like how long they've been with the company? Like, no, strictly based on age. So if you've been there 2 years and you're 50 and I've been there 35 years and I'm 49, okay, that math doesn't add up, but let's say that I've been there 30 years and I'm 49, guess who gets more? The 50-year-old. So he'd been there for years and years and years. They cut him a check for, I think, $60,000. His wife got a check for $180,000. Some other person who had been there 3 years got a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was like at least 6 figures more than him because they were older. That is the rat race. That is the blue room. That is the job world. That right there. Story after story after story after story. You get a job, things are going great, company goes bankrupt, everything you've ever worked for is gone and you start over again. You get a job, things are going great, and hey, you show up one day and they're like, hey, can we talk to you? Yeah, we've gotten rid of your entire position. Your department's gone, effective immediately. We need you to turn in your computer, bring in your box, give us your files, give us your keys. You're done. Like nothing. And they can, here's a severance pay and this, and they can try to nicey poo it and make it sound better. It's a scam, guys. Don't settle for the blue room. Don't go in the blue room. Don't fall for the illusion that it's safe, that it's the thing that you should do. I'm wrapping up here, guys. I would encourage you, figure out what you want. There's a principle that I talked about earlier in this show. It's called define, learn, do. Define what you want. Learn from someone who's done it and then go do that thing. I talk more about this in the Freedom Project video at 40hoursweeksucks.com/exit if you want to check that out. But figure out what you want to do with your life and then begin working towards it because you get one shot. You get one shot to do what you want. You get one shot to leave an impact. And I don't want you to be an older person saying that no one ever told me or that I'm so sorry that I never took the chance. Someday you're going to get old. Someday your want-to-dos are going to be I wish I had-ofs if you don't make the decision to get out of the rat race now and to do whatever it takes to get your freedom for your family, to live a 5% life, to have true freedom. Guys, I'll talk to you in the next episode number 78. I have some huge announcements there that I've never mentioned at all on the show before. Hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you then.